Welcome to the Local
724 podcast.
in 3, 2, 1.
Today in studio we have Sharon and Dan from the 12th Octave. How are you guys doing?
Doing awesome.
Great.
How are you?
Doing really good. I'm glad you guys got to make it down to the studio. It's pretty cold out there today,
It's a little chilly today.
right? So could you guys explain to us, everybody here, what the 12th Octave is all about?
Yeah, so ultimately the 12th Octave is about developing people to reach their full potential. And so we do that through creative artistry, with music lessons, with paint classes, with creative writing workshops, music theory workshops, really anything to do with creativity and developing people. So we have students who are regular piano, guitar, drum students, and then we have students who are one-time workshop students. So kind of we run the gamut of developing people.
That's awesome. So how did this all get started?
How did it all get started? So, I'm a lifetime musician. I started playing the piano when I was 4 years old, but I didn't go into music because the term starving artist really scared me.
Yeah,
So I became an engineer.
that's a real thing.
It is a real thing. So I became an engineer because that would feed my family. And I met Dan through a company that we worked mutually for. But I continued to teach piano lessons in the evenings at my home. And I've done that for years and years now. And probably a dozen or so years ago, I got this idea to have a music studio and have a place where people could not only learn to play music, but actually perform music. And so I started looking for studio space or a building that we could rent to, perform. And I was talking with Dan about a year or so ago, and we were looking all over Western Pennsylvania, and we stumbled upon a building in Greensburg and fell in love with it.
That's pretty awesome. So you're right down there on Pennsylvania Avenue.
We are.
That's a hot spot to be.
It is an awesome spot to be. We are so excited to be there.
Yeah, it's really cool. How many people do you have that are working there?
We have 8 instructors, plus myself. I teach piano there. But we, 8 instructors and paint instructors, 8 musicians, 8 musical instructors, and 1 paint instructor right now, and looking to add some more.
It's really awesome. I think it's really neat. Whenever I was, doing my my research on you guys, I thought it was really neat that you guys were doing music and art. I think that's like such a cool thing because those two things, in my opinion, are super important for like development when it comes to like kids or even like young adults who are, kind of trying to find themselves and things like that.
So it's interesting that you say that because for me, music was cathartic, right? I lost my dad to cancer when I was really, really young, and I poured myself into my music. And for me, that was a way of helping me find myself, right? And art does a similar thing, right? It's very cathartic, and people who paint just lose themselves in their art. And so that's kind of one of the things that we use to help develop people, right?
Yeah.
The discipline that's required for learning an instrument or learning a skill is incredible, right? So as we call it life lessons through the arts. We're teaching those life lessons as we're teaching students to take a very complex piece of music and work on it little bits at a time and just really master little things. So we're teaching them to make big problems down into little problems that are more manageable. So it really is life lessons through the arts.
For sure. I mean, it's just like, attaining small goals to get
Exactly.
to your bigger goal. I think it's pretty awesome. So you were a lifetime musician. Dan, how about you?
Same thing. I took lessons guitar lessons when I was younger, and I really didn't get it. I mean, I could play the guitar very well, but it wasn't until I got in 7th, 8th grade and met up and formed a garage band, and literally played in a band up and through my second year in college. They were anywhere from 3 to 5 nights a week. I was sort of a lounge lizard back in the day.
Yeah.
There. Then I had to go out and finish school and got my engineering degree and sort of set that all aside for a good 15, 20 years. I really didn't play that much until I got called back. My church opened up a worship team, which I didn't. They told me, hey, we're going to have a church service. We're going to have drums. We want you to play bass, and we're going to have electric guitar. And I sort of looked at them and I went, yeah, really? Well, within about 3 months, we were probably the most popular service they had in playing worship music. It's really been a key part of my life now, moving forward. Still an engineering manager, but I'm looking down the road towards retirement. You know, what can I do? And the dream of owning a music studio was really Sharon's, and you know, we became friends through work, and you know, we did work on some projects together, and then there would be years I wouldn't see her, and finally got back with her, and she said she's looking in Murraysville for a place to open up her music shop, and I said, why don't you go into Greensburg? And she had an appointment, and she said, hey, why don't you come with me? I'm going to be looking at a couple places. And we looked at one place that needed probably $250,000 worth of renovations. And
Yikes.
It was a little out of my league.
Yeah.
we can't quite do that. And we came into 217 South Pennsylvania Avenue and into that building, and I fell in love with it. I walked into that building, and I said, wow. I said, wow. And I said, this is
it.
This is all set up for there were offices. It was DeLisi's old tax building, and well-maintained building. And I looked at the price of the building, and I said, wow, this is cheaper than my condo I just bought. And I looked at the building, and it's like, I can't believe we can buy a building in downtown Greensburg for this price, and it's in such great shape. It's in the culture of the historic district.
Yeah.
And it's all set up for music. So I turned to her and I said, hey, if you're interested, I said, I'll go into a partnership with you, and we can get this thing running. So that's how I became involved. And Sharon does most of the teaching and running around. I'm more of like the silent partner behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I really don't do any teaching. I let that up to the younger guys, so I do play guitar, and I will on occasion teach bass lessons. But she's more of the front person, but you'll see me there. I'll get out in the evenings.
He's the greeter.
I'm a greeter.
Yeah.
I'm the hostess.
That's all right.
He's a host.
Everybody needs one.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's working out well.
Yeah, that's really neat. So do you guys, I mean, do you have an age range of people that are coming down, like young kids?
Oh, that's awesome that you asked that. We run the gamut. So we do have young kids. We have some kindergartners, probably the youngest, maybe 4 or 5 years old, up through retired people.
Oh, wow.
So we really run the gamut.
Holy cow. Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's really neat, like, to get to know some people that might be in retirement or something and looking for something to just keep their mind sharp. And, you know, are there some retired folks that maybe are just learning, or are they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So same thing. We run the gamut. We have a couple guitar students who have played, you know, a little bit throughout their life, and they just they want to get better. So they're looking to lessons now. But I have a couple piano students who started as retirees.
Wow.
And they're literally just learning how to play.
That's super interesting.
It
I think
is.
it's really cool. And like the little kids, like, so you guys have a bunch of people that, you know, kind of work there and do the lessons and stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think is the most popular instrument that you teach down there right now?
Well, right now piano is very, very popular. Not just because I teach it, but just because it is. And
They want to
guitar.
come see the rock star.
They do, right. That's it. But guitar is very popular too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have a lot of inquiries on guitar and piano right now. But we run the gamut. We'll teach. We have flute lessons, clarinet, saxophone, trumpet, voice,
Ukulele too.
ukulele.
Wow.
That's a big thing.
Yeah. I forget the girl's name that kind of blew up the ukulele thing on America's Got Talent or whatever. Grace Vanderwald or whatever. I started seeing a lot more ukuleles since she was on that show.
Well,
sure.
I'll tell you, it's definitely a thing. So,
yeah, absolutely. It's pretty awesome. I really think that, you know, what you guys are bringing to Greensburg and adding down there to Pennsylvania Avenue, I think it's so cool. And just like, I mean, the historic district and things like that. I mean, it's you guys fit right in down there.
Oh, it's awesome. We're
It's
like
so
right
cool.
down the road from the Palace Theater.
Yeah, and Seton Hill's right
Seton Hill's
there.
right there.
You know, you got all kinds of things going on.
It's a great location. We got the parking lot across the street, and we actually do have parking behind our building too. So, you know, our students can park there if it's during the time when the meteor lady's running around.
Right, yeah.
It is a great location, and it's really good to see what's happening in Greensburg in regard to the changes and the innovations, and we're just really glad to be a part of it.
Yeah. So was that kind of part of your main decision whenever you started looking in Greensburg? Was this resurgence that is taking place, and you wanted to kind of...
Absolutely, it's definitely
part
a
of it.
factor, right? Because as you know, as we invested in the building, we want to see that investment take off. We're just very excited to see the changes taking place in Greensburg, and we know it's just going to continue to grow.
Yeah, I think, you know, there's probably a lot of opportunity, I think, for you guys, especially being right there on that street for when, you know, they have the night markets and things like that. You know, you guys can, who knows, sky's the limit. I mean, you can open the doors and let people listen, or you guys can, now, do you guys have, what do we want to call it? Performances? Do you guys put together performances?
So we do. We're having a recital in April.
Okay.
We're actually going to do that in Murraysville, just because of the number of students that we have. We can't accommodate them all in our building.
Mm-hmm.
But we would love to be able to utilize some of the churches in the area and do performances there. We've actually talked about using our back parking lot as having some outdoor concerts this summer.
Yeah.
You know, where our students can develop their skill of performing live, because that is very, very different, right? And it's very different to just
Sure is.
learn music in a studio versus playing live for an audience.
Yeah.
And that's part of the skill set that we want to use to develop people.
And we're also working on, for the upcoming concert here, is having students play with other students, and also maybe having some of the instructors involved. You can always have a piano recital and people play, but you got somebody that's new on the guitar. It's kind of hard to have him go up and play a solo on the guitar.
Oh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're trying to blend that in. We don't know how that's going to go, but like I said, one of our goals is to get students playing
With
music
each other.
With each other.
Yeah.
Playing.
Right.
Yeah, that's important. I mean, that was a big part of my childhood. I was also in some bands throughout my life
nice.
and things, and so that's why.
What do
when
you play?
I play guitar.
Nice.
So I really didn't learn. I didn't take lessons. I didn't learn how to like play music or read music or anything like that. I was just kind of learned by my ear and things, and I would
that's
like
awesome.
listen to something 11 billion times, and I would just find the notes and
Sounds
stuff,
like,
and
yeah,
then
absolutely.
But me too. I mean, like I was in bands and stuff, and with some guys around here, and we played for a long time. We played with other local bands. We toured a little while.
Nice.
We just went to go sign like a nice record contract and did our CD and all of that stuff, and then some of the guys in the band got a little scared, and they were in college, and it was like, yo, I don't think I can do this. So ultimately, we ended up breaking our deal, which sucked real bad
that's a
because I got
bummer.
yelled at. But it was cool. We ended up with a CD
Nice.
of like the stuff that we did, and we all still hang out and stuff. But the one thing that really kind of stuck out was just I don't think that any one of the guys in the band really took lessons or anything like that. And, it wasn't, it was kind of more for fun.
Sure.
That's kind of what we did. And, it was a good time because I think, kids our age, we were kind of young. We could have been out doing some pretty terrible stuff. You know what I mean? Just being bad kids or whatever. And that's how we chose to spend our free time. And, we would practice 5 nights a week, something like that. I'm sure my neighbors hated us, but they were all right with
But
it.
it kept you out of trouble.
That's right. And they were cool with it. They were just
Right.
like, you know what? You guys are doing good over there. We hear you progressing and things. So it was really neat. I think for kids to learn how to play with other kids and maybe start a garage band. All great
Absolutely.
things start in a garage. Am I
They
right?
do. That is true.
That's so cool. So what kind of band were you in? What kind of garage band were you in?
Well, we started playing for private parties and clubs, hunting clubs, and this and that. And then we got into weddings, and eventually, as we went on, like we started playing clubs. And like I said, sometimes it would be 3 to 5 nights a week.
Yeah.
And so by the time I hit my second year in college, it was like I can't do this any longer.
Yep.
But yeah, we used to do it all. We were our own roadies and everything. We'd fill up trucks, and the lounges were great because you could go in, set up, and you could go the following nights and then just come in and play. When you played for a wedding, it was a longer
set
deal.
up, tear down.
But the hours were generally shorter. The lounges
10 to
usually
2.
went 10 to 2.
Oh yeah.
And
Late night shows.
Those could be tough.
Yeah. I mean, back in my day, like if we were playing the nighttime spots, like down in the South Side or something, they'd give us a little bit of money, but then they'd say, "You guys have free reign on the bar. Go for it." So that's kind of how we'd get paid, which was like, okay, well that's cool, but who the hell's going to drive us home? So, but yeah, it was fun, and music was a big part of my life. It still is.
Yeah.
Almost same deal. I mean, I got into, after the band broke up, I got into, more photography and video. Got myself a girlfriend, and like just music kind of fell by the wayside. None of us were really playing together anymore. And so I really didn't touch a guitar for the longest time. And then just this last summer, we went to go see John Mayer, who I've just been obsessed with since I ever found out who he was. And that night, we got home from the concert. I was laying in bed, and I was like, you know what? I'm buying myself a guitar. So I went, got myself a guitar, and I just chip away at it here and there. Whenever I'm sitting up in my studio editing videos, I'll pull it out and, just try and learn, relearn all the stuff.
It's like riding a bike.
Yeah. I mean, like you do get into it. Like I noticed that, strumming for some people is not very easy. Yeah. Like catching a strumming pattern for some people just really isn't easy. That came back instantaneous.
Nice,
it never left. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, thank God for that.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to sit there and like be like, oh my God, I used to do this so well. What's happening? And so it was good. I was real excited to just kind of get back into it. And it's really exciting. I think that, you guys are providing that feeling for, youth around here. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like to see our students get really excited about music, right? Nobody wants to come in and just be like, oh, it's my boring piano lesson. We try to make it fun, try to teach them, things about music, but then apply it to music that they like. So we let students pick songs that they want to do, supplement it with, other stuff with their learning scales and chords and music theory, but we want to make it relevant to them. So give them free reign for their recitals, and put some bands together, put siblings together. We have some siblings that play guitar. One plays guitar, one plays the piano, and so let's put them together and have them work together and start learning what it's like to work on a team, right? And do a little bit of team building with one another.
And produce the next Jonas Brothers.
Absolutely. That would be awesome.
And we also have some very good instructors too that have a lot of good experience.
We have phenomenal instructors.
Are they local, or are they, kind of spread out?
They're kind of spread out. They're kind of spread out, but we have our saxophone instructor is phenomenal. Graduated from Penn State with a degree in music. He's pursuing his master's degree at Duquesne. Our guitar instructor graduated from Cal State.
Wow. Degree
in music production. So our trumpet player is phenomenal. He studied at Berklee School of Music. So really, really good instructors.
Yeah. That's really neat. I mean, so you with your engineering background, you probably are very meticulous and business oriented anyway. But then you went ahead and you have a degree in project management also?
Yeah, I have a master's certificate in project management.
Which is probably what is really, really helping the business keep organized.
We're trying.
Right? I mean, business is it's a whole different animal. I mean, once you start,
it is a whole different animal.
Can't stop.
Yeah.
You have to keep running with it. It's pretty awesome. So would you say that your project management degree, how does that help you, I guess, in the day-to-day?
So I guess what I would say is it probably helps me compartmentalize from the creative side to the, hey, we have to keep the business running. So we have to continue to look, 3 months ahead, 6 months ahead. What are the programs that we're going to offer? What type of shows are we going to have? We're bringing in some art exhibits. And how often do we want to do these? And how many people do we need to have to keep the business going? And how often do we have to have a workshop? And designing those workshops and building the really team building workshops too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Putting together some other projects to do long term.
That's really neat. So would you guys think about having like a showcase of just maybe the instructors and things, or do you guys like something that would really just kind of have the community be like, oh my gosh, look at these guys, because they were obsessed with your church band, So I mean, that's to see raw talent in the area. I mean, that's phenomenal for everybody.
I think that's one of the things we're going to be targeting for when they have the street fair in Greensburg. We will probably have them outside, the instructors out playing.
Yeah, putting a band together for Music Fest.
Yeah.
Right, 2020, if there's such a thing yet.
There has to be.
There will be. I'm sure there will be.
Yeah. So I used to live in Lancaster, and I know that, they do some really awesome community-focused things like, every Friday of the month or whatever. I think it was every third Friday of the month, they had a thing called Music Friday. And all musicians, it didn't matter who you were, if you were worked for a company or if you were just some guy that played bass, you could sit on the corner of the street. I mean, Lancaster is a big place, so it was a big area. Corners. Yeah, lots of corners. But it was so neat because they would come out and, they'd just sit there and they'd play, and then people in the community would get to walk around and, kind of find out who these people are and all kinds of things. So I see that, with the Greensburg events down there on the street. I mean, you guys could have your people out there
playing at the night market,
kind of hanging out, having fun, playing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's pretty neat. So when you have the kids like pick the music that they want to play, do they ever come to you with like some just absurd request, because like music now is mostly just so electronic and
there's a lot. So and sometimes the student that's been there for 3 weeks wants to play something like crazy, ridiculous hard, right? So what I have to do is kind of filter through and say, okay, can I find an easier version of it for you? Or can I teach you, some, maybe we're going to stretch them a little bit faster than they thought they were going to get stretched to teach them some more advanced things. So, I have to filter kind of through a little bit, but we help them achieve what they want to.
That's good.
That's kind of what it's all about.
That's awesome. I can imagine. I mean, like me, if it was me, I would have walked in like with my guitar first day and been like, I want to learn how to play Eric Johnson.
Yeah, right.
Can we do this before I leave? Thanks.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, those are the things like back in my day, I just, the internet was kind of like just coming out, being a thing. And I was downloading guitar tabs and printing them out. We went through so much ink, so much paper. My mom, this literally just happened last year. We cleaned out a filing cabinet in my mom's house, and there were just drawers full to the brim of guitar tabs. Of just all these songs that, like, I only wanted to learn how to play the really cool part. Yeah. And then I'd be like, all right, I'm done with that song. On to the next. And it was just, it was really funny. I found a lot of, like, Ozzy Osbourne stuff. Eric Johnson, actually, I mentioned that. But, just really cool things. And, but the cool thing about you guys, like, teaching them the songs a little bit at a time is that, as a difference to how I did it, I only learned, like, the cool parts, like the chorus or something like that, where, these guys are learning a full song. So it's, like, really neat. They could...
And we want them to learn the basics. We want them to learn how to read music. And really, I tell my students, my job is to help you not need me anymore. Yeah. Right? I want you to get to the point where you can pick up any piece of music and you can learn it on your own.
That's so cool. Yeah, that would be neat.
Yeah, times have certainly changed. You talk about tab music. I go further back. We used to... you could never find the sheet music for a song, and if it was just a piano version only.
What's the matter with that?
Oh, and then you have to take a record and you have to play, try to learn it off a record. You listen to a little
That's
bit.
what I used to
pick
do.
the needle up and move it
Oh,
back.
no,
and,
not on the record.
listen to it over and over. But and I had a discussion with one of our instructors, and I said, "Are you using the books where you used to have to play Red River Valley and all these stupid songs that you're really not interested in playing?" I said, "What are you doing with your students?" And he's using a lot of tabs, and tabs have really taken over a lot from music. And I said, well, when the student gets older, I said, how do you migrate? Playing tabs is playing tabs. You're looking at a picture and playing that. How do you get theory mixed into those lessons in regards to, hey, playing a C chord here is the same as playing a C chord up here and up here.
Yeah.
And he does work that in. But that's usually with the older students, and we do get we get some people that do know how to play the instruments coming in and saying, "Hey, I want to learn a little bit more. I want to learn a little bit more about theory," and we are trying to structure some theory classes that little workshops that we would like to set up where we just go in and teach the fundamentals of music theory.
I mean, I think that's now later in my life, I think that it's very important. I wish that I would have taken lessons back then when I didn't have anything to do except for, go to a music lesson. And, I think that's just like, it would have been, I think, easier for me to probably pick back up had I had all of the theory involved in it and not just so much of the, if I hear it, I can figure it out. But, I think the theory is really where it's at. And then that way, you kind of, like your scales and your runs and things like that. So that way, if you do hear something and you're just kind of, trying to play along, you could figure out what key you're in and just use your scales.
And here's
to start
another
running.
example, right? So when you're learning a song and you're using guitar tabs or something like that, maybe you're learning to sing it too, but you can't sing in that range. Mm-hmm. So then to learn how to transpose it, right, that's a whole other skill set, right? So that's where your music theory really comes into play. And I have a great example of one of my students. It just plays phenomenally by ear. And he came to me on his first lesson, and I said, show me what you can do. He said, I can play a little bit. Played a phenomenal Elton John Your Song.
Oh my
and
gosh.
I looked at him and I said, well, what do you need me for? And he said, well, I don't know how to read any of it. Like, it's just all by ear.
Yeah.
And so quite literally, he's a high school student, and he was considering going into music full time. And he said, I know that if I go into music in college, I'm going to have to learn how to read it, and I don't know how to do that. So we literally started with classical music, and we're literally working through the Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. He's that good.
Wow.
Phenomenal. But reading classical music forced him to learn how to read the notes, and we work through the chord structures, right? Because he can already do it by ear. Now he's relating all that to what he sees on the paper. So it's really cool.
That's really neat. I mean, that's the basics of just basically putting a face to a name. You know what I mean? I mean, you can sit there and say like, "Oh yeah, I know that," but do you really know it?
Right.
So I mean, that's really neat. At some point, I mean, for as talented as the guy sounds, you got to be pretty happy that he's working with you right now.
Yeah.
That's very cool. So do you guys have, many other standout students that are just like, whoa,
Well, we think they're all pretty standout.
Yeah.
In their own way. But it's just, the coolest thing for me is just to see kids develop over time and to see them come out of their shell. And, I've had some students come, and, the younger they are, sometimes they're nervous when they come, or they're real timid. I have some students that, are just afraid to make a real loud noise, and so they play real softly.
Oh, yeah.
And so then seeing them come out of their shell and get confidence, right? So building that confidence in the student to where, they're not afraid to make a noise or make a mistake, or, just play it loud. Like, don't be afraid to make a mistake. We can fix mistakes. But what we want you to do is develop your self-confidence. So we try to foster self-confidence in our students and kind of help them stand out each on their own.
That's really awesome. I mean, that's just, you guys are teaching them a skill, and it seems like just basic life lessons.
It's life lessons through the arts. It really is.
Yeah.
That's what we're about.
And that's very important, I think, in this day and age, is just, with, video games and the electronics and phones and tablets and computers and all of that stuff. I mean, to be able to pick up an instrument and really kind of know how to play it, and things like that. It's
well, here's
so
another
important.
cool thing that happens, right? So you mentioned video games, but I'll have students come to me and they'll be like, I want to play this little ditty that's with this video game that I play, and they'll pull it out and play it, and then we'll sit down and figure out, what it is, and then they're like, wow, I can play that, and so it's just kind of cool.
That's really neat. I mean, like, the skills that they're acquiring from you guys, in order to do that, and who knows, like, once they learn more from you, they could go and learn how to do that.
Oh, they're going to.
By
there's no
themselves.
doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. So as I interact with my students and I get to learn a little bit about them, and some are introverted and some are extroverted, and we just kind of see a little bit of their personality come through. You could just see the creativity in their minds, and that person is going to go on to be a film producer or, who knows what. But it's just very cool to see that potential and then see them stepping out toward that potential.
That's really neat. I think that what music and art does for people is just, it's phenomenal. And it really does just kind of take the introvert and turn them into an extrovert, and just, kind of allow them to be people.
Yeah, at least in their element, right? Whatever their element is. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know that, when I was a kid, I was probably a little bit more quiet, kind of, doing my own thing with the neighbors and things like that. But I think once I really kind of got into a band, that really turned on the social switch in my mind. And I was just like, I want to meet new people. I want to, like, talk to new people. I'd go hang out with guys from other bands, and we would just, get together and either play, just jam on something if we were bored, or, go out to the bar and have a beer and just, like, get to know each other and stuff. And that was just, like, I think it was a really eye-opening experience that music really kind of provided.
Was that catalyst?
Yeah, it really
cool.
was. It's really neat. I mean, I'm sure that, somewhere down the line, music probably prompted me to be okay with this, to have the guts to do
try
this.
it. Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
That's cool.
So I like it a lot. I mean, I think that, obviously what you guys are doing is great for the community. As far as the age range that you guys have coming in, I think that's just, like, it's mind-blowing. That's so phenomenal to me. I think it's really neat that you guys have, like, such young people and such old people. Who's the youngest person that you got there? Like, how old?
I think right now our youngest student is about 5. The youngest student I've ever taken on was just under 4 years old. So, like, 3.5 was the youngest student that I took on, and she's still a current student of mine.
Wow.
She is 9 years old now, and she's phenomenal.
That's awesome. That's so cool. So do these kids, like, does it start with, like, them taking music lessons in school, and they're just kind of like,
sometimes.
That piqued my interest. I want to kind of get a little more
sometimes.
in depth.
Like, for me, it was, we had a piano in our house, and I would just go up and play, and I would make up little songs.
Yeah.
And so my mom was like, hey, I want to get her some music lessons. And that's how Abby started. With others, it's their parent says, hey, I think they should learn music, right? And so then it kind of starts that way, and then they start to realize what they can do with music, and so then they want to do more.
Yeah. That's pretty awesome. So what are, like, we heard all the great stuff. So what are, like, some of the challenges that you guys face in this business? Practicing?
Practice, encouraging your students to practice regularly.
Yeah.
I mean, as you know, everybody's life is busy, and kids are pulled in a million different directions. And so having them develop that self-discipline of practice that they're responsible for is not always easy.
Yeah. I mean, and I can speak to that personally. I think when I was younger, when I started to learn and I started to progress, I saw myself attaining goals. And I didn't know what that meant when I was young, but I was like, oh my gosh, I can play this song now, or I can play a piece of this song. So that prompted me to sit upstairs for hours and just play. I mean, it wasn't anything for me to take a Saturday and play probably 6 or 7 hours that day. Now, my kid, he takes guitar lessons. He's just very new to it all. But we're trying to instill in him like, hey, this is practice. I mean, when you're not there on Monday, you need to be putting in at least, an hour a day to like, really practice. And it's the video games and things like that. They're just really like, hey, did you play your guitar? Oh, I'll get there. I'll get there. And it's like, start doing it. Yeah. Do it now.
Well, I sometimes tell my students, you did really well with that. Imagine how well you do if you actually practiced it every day.
Right.
That'd be awesome.
I mean, like when you were learning and things, like both of you guys, how often did you guys practice?
I didn't practice much at all. I to be honest with you, I didn't practice much at all until I got together into a band. And then everything changed. Then I practiced because I think a lot of it leads to teaming. I mean, I played in quite a few bands, and you have to be a good team. You have to know what each other is doing at all times, and you got to have faith in them. I told you I play guitar, but my instrument of glory that I like to play is bass, and that's hard to practice.
Yeah.
I can put a record on and play against a record, but playing the bass, I almost need a band to practice. But
you're the backbone, so it's
and that's
it's getting tough.
That's the whole other thing behind the bass is people think, okay, I can pick up and I can play the notes of the bass, and I'm a bass player. But that's just the beginning of being a bass player. A bass player is the rock of the band. He holds the drummer, and I enjoy that so much with the groups that I've played in, and it's been fun. You get together with, my cousin had a polka band, and on occasion I would go play in his polka band.
That's fun.
He'd just say what key we're playing in, and away we'd go. And it's great. You get to know. Yeah, like I said, you can do a lot of teaming and trust.
And that's really the next level that we want to take this to, right? So we want to do individual lessons. We want to keep doing that kind of stuff, but we do want to take our students and put them together into bands and have them learn how to work with one another, right?
Yeah.
So that's another life skill.
It sure
that
is.
is really important, is to learn how to work with other people, doing similar but different things, right?
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to the opportunity to put some of our individuals together in bands.
Yeah. I mean, it's very important. Like we said, I mean, just to, I practiced because, I'm very result oriented. So when I feel like I'm doing something and I'm getting the result, I'm like, oh man, then I'm on it.
And how much better does that make you feel about yourself, right? So that's all part of like teaching kids.
Feels great.
To get that satisfaction of, we put a little bit of work into it and look at the results that you can achieve.
I mean, and, like you were saying, Dan, with, playing by yourself with the bass and stuff, I mean, yes, that's definitely going to be tough. You could play to a track or something like you said, but, to put two people together, not just kids, but to put two people together, and one might play guitar, one might play bass, one might play piano, one might play bass, drums, anything, you could really... That's almost enough. If you guys, your timing is on and everything's good, and you're playing something that kind of sounds good, that's enough. That's enough to get somebody some serious motivation.
They do. And so just this week during lessons, I had a relatively new student do a duet with me for the first time. So two people playing the piano. They played their part, and then to hear someone else playing another part and not get distracted doing what you're doing, you have to learn to listen to the other person to make sure that you guys are, on track with the timing and the tempo. But when we did it well, and she was lit. She was like, wow, that was awesome. Let's do it again.
Hell
and I'm like, okay, that's when you're making a difference.
Yeah. I mean, that's when that switch clicks.
Yes.
It's like, oh,
and,
man.
And honestly, it's that click that we're looking for in each of our students. We're looking for what is it that makes it click for that particular student. Yeah. How can I help them develop to that point?
Yeah, it's so cool. Neat. I think how many bands were you in, Dan?
I was in quite a few.
Yeah, I've been in quite a few too.
The last band I was in, I was actually in a Christian band, and we went and did a CD and local. These are local people. I think most of them now are preachers. Except for me. But
give it time, Dan. Give it time.
Retirement is coming up, he said.
But they were great, and we had a good time. But there's many bands, and I think you get that. And most recently, I've got to know some people in the area that once every 3 months or 6 months we'll get together and we'll go into a bar, some bar, and say, hey, that we know, and say, hey, can we come in and play a few hours on Saturday night? Oh yeah, come on in.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we just get together, and it's somebody will say, hey, we're going to play Silver, Blue, and Gold, and it's like, all right, what key is that in? And to get guys together. We're not all that terrific. And it goes against my grain because when I play, I really like to be tight. I like to have a band that really knows where it's rolling. And I had that in the Christian band where we did the recording. But it's also great just to get together with guys. You make mistakes.
Yeah.
You're just making music and having fun. And that's what it's all about.
That is cool. Have you ever run into like a bar or something that has kind of like it's like an open mic for like bands?
Yeah, we have one of
like
our...
Spiels, I think.
Oh,
does that.
Actually, one of our teachers hosts out there.
Oh, really?
And it's truly amazing to see some of those people that come out there and play. And
A lot of local talent.
A lot of local talent, and it's amazing.
Yeah, it's so cool, and that's what I think. To put these two things together, like to be in a spot like that where you could say to somebody, "Oh yeah, let's try that. What key is it in?" And then, teaching these kids early, that this is possible and things. I mean, that's cool. Phenomenal. It gives them something to look forward to. How many bands were you in?
Oh, I was in quite a few over the years.
Did you play piano in every band?
I did.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What kind of bands?
Mostly like 80s hair band, rock.
Oh, man.
Rock and roll bands, yeah.
You guys should have submitted.
And of course,
something.
now I play more in worship bands. But back in the day.
I even lived through the disco era too.
Yeah.
He's a little older than I am.
80s hair metal was my thing.
Yeah,
very much my thing.
Mine too.
So
cool.
DVE actually just had a competition for like a ballad, like Pittsburgh ballads.
Yes.
And I think the competition ends today. But that would have been awesome.
That would have been awesome.
For you guys to put something together. I heard a pretty good one today from a friend of a friend, and it's pretty good. It's about Sally Wiggin. It's awesome. It is one of the coolest things. I'll play it for you guys after the show.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I think just like, and then it sounds almost like I'm kind of crapping on technology, but at the same time, like the kids being able to play this stuff and have access to computers or even phones to like kind of record their stuff on.
Well, I have this one student. He's got so much music in his head. Like he's just very, very creative. And I tell him all the time, record. Like he'll sit down and just play a little ditty. And I'll know he's been working on it because he'll come in and before we do anything else in his lesson, he'll sit down and play. And I'm like, you do have that recorded, right? Like you got to get it recorded because then we're going to learn how to write it. Like I'll teach you the music theory. I'll teach you how to write it out. But you got to record it. So, yeah, that's cool.
It really is neat. And I think that, a lot of people are now able to do these one-person acts because of technology. Right. And, they can play the bass, they can play the drums, they can play the guitar and or piano and sing. I know one guy in particular, he is in a band or was in a band called Emerson J. His name is Jared. This guy is like savant level, like musician. He's crazy. And he's into like electronic music. So he like kind of lays down these beats that are, electronic beats. Mm-hmm. He'll do snaps, claps, breaths, things like that. And he'll make beats out of that stuff. And then, he sings over it, plays guitar over it.
Fun. Yeah.
It's like some of the coolest stuff. They headlined the Pickle Fest a couple years ago.
Nice, yeah.
And I just walked up, and I didn't realize I worked with him. I was listening to his music in a studio while I was setting up for a video. And some guy came in and he goes, hey, that's Jared's band. And I'm like, what? And then all of a sudden it was like, I was like fanboy. Like I talked to him every day. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, this guy's like celebrity status to me.
That's cool.
But we went to Pickle Fest and we're like looking around and there weren't many people. Like they were just getting set up. They got into one song. I turned around and there were probably 2,000 people down the Roberto Clemente Bridge.
That's
like
awesome.
I was like, oh my God, look how packed this is. And, that's just a thing. That's what music does, man. Music brings everyone together. Like you go to a bar, music.
Music.
Everyone's having fun, music. it's just such an important thing to everybody, whether they know it or not.
Yeah,
I think.
yeah. Well, we love music. We love anything to do with creativity, and so we're doing some art things. We're doing the pour painting. We have a pour painting class every month. So acrylic pour painting is kind of cool. You just mix up paint and you pour it and you make a masterpiece.
Yeah,
And,
that's really
so
neat.
we're doing that, and we have an upcoming art exhibit. So a good friend of ours is going to exhibit his art in our studio on April 2nd. So we're pretty excited about that. So we're kind of expanding into some other areas of creativity.
Yeah, and that's really cool because, you will run into kids that, they might not be able to develop the timing, the strumming
Right.
patterns, the music side of it. But, creativity is for everyone.
Right, absolutely.
It's for everybody. And, if you're, a little kid that makes up a story and tells your mom like, oh, so-and-so, like, blah, 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 this is that. You're being creative. You're storytelling.
Yeah,
Like right off the bat.
absolutely,
you know?
absolutely. Well, speaking of that, we had a creative writing class last month. It was
cool.
the first workshop of that type that we did, and I was surprised at the response that we got. And the people that came said, "Yeah, you should do more of this." So we're going to be doing more of that. Getting into doing some self-publishing through the studio.
Oh, wow. That'd be really
of the
neat.
works that are created in the studio. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, that would be real neat. That's the thing about creativity is just you have to be creative in everything you do. Anything can be creative.
Right.
It just depends on how you put your own spin on it,
Well,
Anything.
creativity is one of those things, too. The more you use it, the more you get.
Absolutely.
You don't use up your creativity. The more you start to do creative things, the more ideas that you have, and things just explode.
Yeah.
So it's pretty exciting.
So let me ask you this, talking about the creative thing, were you guys you're still an engineer at this point, but were you excited to kind of get out of that world and really kind of dive into the creative world?
I am so excited about it.
Right?
Yeah, I have. He has to settle me down every once in a while. I have ideas that are just exploding, and he'll say, just relax a little bit.
That's like what this show is all about.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
I
You don't
would- I
even
would
know
have to-
half of them because I haven't even shared them all with you yet, but just wait.
I would have to say, I think engineering probably led more to our creativity because I think to be an engineer, you got to be creative.
Absolutely, I agree.
And I'm amazed at the number of engineers that I've worked with or managed that were great musicians.
That are musicians, absolutely.
I think we get a
Or
large,
artists or-
large
yeah.
pool of musicians that
Yeah.
probably have an engineering background.
Yeah.
And it's part of the creativity.
Yeah. There was a guy, he was in, I think, one of my first couple bands. He's an engineer now. He went to engineering at Pitt. And, yep, he, phenomenal bass player. He's really good at guitar. He has the mindset to really just kind of get in there and learn and do things on a whole different level because he's an engineer or because he's that type of a person. Yeah. He played in a band down in Pittsburgh with a bunch of the most technical musicians I've ever known. These guys, it was kind of a new thing type of music. There weren't lyrics. It was all just music. And it was like the things that they were doing were so technical that you didn't need lyrics because it was just so impressive to listen to each one of these guys do their thing. And it was phenomenal. And like you said, he's an engineer. So
yeah, I think there's a lot of creativity there.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so wild to see. It's a small world. I mean, like you guys, engineers, you're both musicians. I know a guy, same deal. But it's really neat to see kind of the different musical, I guess, abilities between the two. Like maybe just like, your creative person who might just sit there and figure it out by themselves, and then you guys more of kind of like an analytical mind type of thing that can really dive deep and then take that creativity to a whole new level.
Yep. That's cool. That's what we're all about.
That's right. That's awesome. So I guess, being in Greensburg and things like that, do you guys have many clients, I guess, coming from other areas?
So we do.
We're pretty central here.
We're pretty central here. We have some students from the Latrobe area, some from Youngwood. Some actually come over from Delmont.
Oh, wow. Good.
So Irwin, kind of, all around.
Yeah, it's good. That's like, Greensburg's kind of like a very central location. I mean, we're like...
It's a wonderful location. We're thrilled to be here.
Yeah, it's so much fun, and I think you guys got in here at the right time. I mean, you were right here, right at the beginning of this whole like
it's going to explode.
thing.
It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. It's so much fun. I mean, like now you've got stores down there, you've got the brewery down there, restaurants popping up left and right, a co-working space just right around the corner from you guys.
It's awesome.
It's fantastic.
Fun just to walk down the street, right, and see the changes that have happened. Honestly, since we moved in, there's all kind of things that have changed in the last year.
Yeah, I think the presence of the college too, and the college students have added a lot too, and it's brought more people into the city. It's remarkable. I'm still amazed that I'm part of a business that owns a building down in the historic district on 2nd Avenue. It's great.
Yeah, it's really neat. I mean, I've had people on the show here that have talked about, either they went to Seton Hill or knew people that went to Seton Hill. And, they said not too long ago, the kids would really stay up there on the hill and they wouldn't come down here because, they felt as though they weren't really kind of welcome down here. It was just kind of like
I love college students.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're the best. They're always out to have fun.
Yeah.
And get into some things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, talk about finding yourself, right?
Right,
That's when a lot of that happens.
Yeah, and I really enjoy seeing like a lot of the kids now down here walking around, experiencing different things.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just so neat to see this area busy.
Yes.
I mean, you walk through like Latrobe, for instance, at 5:00. You could literally be the only person on all of Ligonier Street. You could be the only person. And it's just so wild to me that, Greensburg was kind of like that whenever I first moved here. And now it's just, there's people everywhere.
Yeah.
It is so cool to see other people out and walking around and all of that stuff. And I mean, I don't know. I think
we're really grateful for that because we've actually had some students that became our students just because they walked past the building and they said, "Oh, what do you guys do?" And they stopped in and they gave us a call, sent us an email, and they're our student now. Yeah, because they were walking down the road. So that's very cool.
It's really neat. Can you guys actually just kind of tell everybody what the name?
Yeah, so our name is 12th Octave. Oh, what it's all about. Okay, so the number 12 is really significant in the Bible. And, I have a very deep faith, and my relationship with God kind of drives everything that I do. So when it came time to name the business that I started, I really wanted it to be significant. And so really the number 12 really talks about God's authority in my life, and so we run that business. It's not a church. It's not a Christian organization per se, but we run that business with Christian principles. And so we just want to instill good Christian biblical principles in everything that we do, and we want to reflect that well.
Yeah.
So, and then octave, right, is very cool, and the octave is an interval between two notes. One with twice the frequency of vibration of the other, right? So for us, it represents the gap between where you can be, where you are, and where you can be if you develop, right? Yeah. Whatever that is. So it all comes back to our principle is to develop people and to be the very best that they can be. So that's where the 12th octave came from.
The one thing that I really enjoyed reading on the bio on the website was just that, you're very focused on leaving things in better condition than when you found them.
Yep.
And I think that that's really cool. That applies to just everything. I think that that's very important in this, this day and age. I think it's really neat that, you're trying to help and teach kids people, just people. As a
Everybody,
whole, the
right.
community.
It's life lessons, right?
Yeah, and it's just that's really neat. When, I guess, did you finally, I guess, feel very comfortable to say, like, you know what, I'm doing this. I'm making this jump. I wanted to get back into that creative thing, because there's a lot of people that have been on this show, and it's a hot topic, especially now. I mean, I did the same thing. I was a video director at a giant company down in Pittsburgh for 4 years, 5 years. And it was a very cushy job. It paid well. Yeah. I got to travel all the time. It was just awesome. But it just became so routine that I was just like, ugh, this is a job. This is like, I wasn't chained to a desk at all whatsoever, but it felt like I was, because it just like, it had its rules and it had things that I needed to do. And it was terrible. So I had to make that jump myself.
Yeah. No, truth be told, that jump is terrifying.
It is.
I'm still terrified. As Dan mentioned, this is a dream of mine that really started probably 10 or 12 years ago. At the time, I thought, wouldn't it be cool if someday? And I thought, that'll never happen, And it just, as time went on, I just kept thinking about it and dreaming about it. And then I started teaching piano lessons in my home, and man, before long, my home studio exploded, and I had 27 students. And I thought, whoa, at night, right? 5 nights a week.
Crap,
I started 27. I started with 1 night a week. Okay, I'll only teach 1 night a week, right? And it's an interruption to my family, and they can't do anything while I'm teaching. And I expanded to 2 nights a week. All right, but no more than 2 nights a week, right? Well, next thing I know, it's literally 5 nights a week that I teach, and so. That jump really happened when we walked in that building. Yeah. And then we thought, wow, I mean, that's a pretty significant jump to say, the first jump was in 2018 when I incorporated, but that was still in my home, right? Yeah. So I was still safe, right?
You felt safe.
From losing business is okay, but like to actually jump in and buy the building and make that investment, I'm in, right? Both feet. Yep. Like it's sink or swim time. And I'll be honest with you, I'm still a little bit terrified.
Yeah. But honest to God, I think that is when people start to take you more serious.
Well, you do, yeah.
And you start to take yourself more serious. And like you said, you're in. You're both feet in.
Right? This is it. We're going to make it work.
Right?
Failure's not an option. So.
It's not at all. You wake up every single day being responsible for everything.
Yeah.
There's not some guy or some lady down in payroll like, hey, it's every other Friday. Here's your check.
Right. No, we got to make it happen.
You got to make it happen every single day.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a whole new ball game.
It really is.
But I'll tell you, that jump, I think sometimes in life, it is that step of faith, right? And it does require faith to do things in life. And sometimes when you're willing to take that step of faith, then you see things start to happen. And that's when God can really bless you, because you've stepped out of your comfort zone. Yeah. It's easy to stay in your comfort zone. It's hard to take that initial step.
Absolutely.
Once you're out, man, you're out.
That's what I tell everybody. The feeling of being uncomfortable is one of the most fantastic things on the planet. It's very uncomfortable to feel uncomfortable.
Terrifying.
It's terrifying, yeah.
But motivating nonetheless. Right.
And like I said earlier, I'm a results-oriented person. Like when I see, something happening, I'm like, this is good. That's motivating to me.
No, it's cool. Just like, and I've seen that happen, right? So as we start to fill up the studio, right? Well, Mondays are pretty busy in our studio. We have, over the course of the night, there's 4 different instructors, and almost all of our studio rooms are busy for the whole night. And, but Wednesday we didn't have anybody. Well, now we have students on Wednesday, so then we started to fill Tuesday up. We've, just filling up different nights of the week. And as we see that start to fill up, I'm like, yes, we're using the rooms. That's important. Right? Same with our paint classes, right? We offered a few paint classes, and, hey, a friend called and said at the last minute, can 2 more people come? Well, absolutely, right? Fill up those paint classes. Yeah. When we see that start to fill up, we're like, yes, that's success. That's good.
That's awesome. I mean, that's growth, and that's got to feel great.
It does. I mean, absolutely.
That's got to just be excellent.
So we're looking to fill up every single studio room 7 days a week.
Yeah.
If we could do it.
So what are your hours now?
So we're by appointment,
Okay.
right? So it really depends on what works for the student, what works for the instructors. Most of the time we find, because of school and stuff, evening hours are what people are looking for.
Yeah.
There are homeschool kids that do come for lessons. We do have some instructors who are available during the day, even for our retired population. But really, it's by appointment. So whatever works for the student and whatever works for instructors, we're willing to do it.
Very cool. Yeah, you guys seem super accommodating. And, I mean, the fact that you're doing this and really, really just teaching, like, the kids and the community as a whole, just, very important lesson in life, learning these skills and things. I think it's something that, everybody should do is someday is pick up an instrument and try it out.
Absolutely. I agree.
I mean, it's so gratifying to like play something. I mean, like I mentioned my kid earlier. I mean, he learned Ode to Joy, and he's sitting there like looking at his little sheet music and stuff. And I said, "Well, how many times have you played that?" And he was like, "Oh my gosh, like 100." And I was like, "Cool." I took a sheet music, flipped it over, and I was like, "Play it." And then he sat there and was like, remember, and it took him a little bit, maybe like a minute to get through it. And then he started playing it. And now he
doesn't
just
have to
whips
look
it
at the
out
music.
and
Yeah,
he has
absolutely.
fun. And it's so cool. And like
that's exactly right. That's when it becomes fun. That's when
Yeah.
it becomes not a chore. And you see that spark in their eye. They're like, look at, right? He was probably excited that he could do that.
Yeah. It was so funny. We were like, he gave me the guitar and I was sitting there tuning it for him. And I ripped out Ode to Joy just real quick, and he was like, "How did you know that?" And I was like, "Because I know what it sounds. I know what it sounds like. I know what it sounds like." And my gosh, I think I learned Ode to Joy back in my first music class in like third grade or fourth grade or something. So it was just you don't ever forget that stuff.
Right,
like you
right.
said, it's like riding a bike.
It is.
You really can, and I think that's what I appreciate the most is that. The ability to hear something and then replicate it is still there. That stayed there. Rustiness, oh my, did I have to knock the dust off? And I'm still doing that. But, I just have so much fun playing.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
well, that's what it's all about. It's a release, right? It's
creative outlet. Oh my gosh. I mean, like, owning a video company and doing photography and things like that. I mean, I'm creative all day, every day. But to sit down like while like a video's rendering or something, I got like 45 minutes to just like chill out. I'll grab the guitar and just sit there and play something, and before you know it, my render's over and I'm like, oh man, I don't want to stop playing. So, I gotta like stop, do my work, and then jump back on the guitar and stuff. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I think that, what you guys are providing the community is just like beyond awesome. And I really hope to see you guys doing, any kind of thing you can as far as like promotion out on the streets with
that's
all
a great
the events
idea.
coming up and stuff, and
we're in.
Anything like that. Yeah. So why don't you tell everybody where they can find you guys, and we'll call this one done.
Yeah, so we are on South Pennsylvania Avenue in Greensburg at 217. You can find our Facebook page. We have a Facebook page called the 12th Octave. Or you can find us, our web address is www.12thoctave.com.
Nice. I'm glad that you did that because I was going to do that. I was going to be like, okay, so it's the 12th Octave, 12th octave.com. Yes, very awesome. I'm glad you did that. All right. Thank you guys so much for being in.
Thanks for having us today.
Thank you for having us down today.
Absolutely.